If there's one thing I know about photography, it is how hard it is to be a professional. Now, I wear two hats. One of them is over here at Tin House Studios. I'm an educator. I do workshops as digital downloads, and we do mentoring, one-to-ones, portfolio reviews, but sort of from a very pragmatic sense. My other hat, which is why I know this stuff, is that I'm a commercial photographer. I shoot adverts, I have an agent, have a studio. We do adverts, we do shoots. I enjoy it. So I have two sort of hats to wear here, which I think is useful in this particular video. Now, as a photographer, when I was starting out, I read the forums and I read all the negativity about how being a photographer is just impossible, the career's over, it's dead. People have been saying this since the 70s. Like, there's always like, oh, autofocus has ended photography. Digital has ended photography. AI has ended photography. It's not worth it anymore. It's worth it. I work as a photographer. Fees are still pretty darn high. And life is good. It is worth it. I'm just going to put that right out there. But here's why people think the way they do. And here's why they're kind of... The outcome is correct. What they're saying is correct, but the rationale is wrong. I'm going to bring in my Uber driver analogy here because I think it's a great one. Now, I don't know where you are in the world, but like Formula 1 is what I'm going to be using as an example. NASCAR, assume it's the same thing. Le Mans 24, any high tier racing. So, I want to be a professional driver. Seems reasonable? I can be a professional driver. I can be a taxi driver, Uber driver, chauffeur, race car driver, Formula 1 driver, NASCAR driver. There's a whole gamut of what I could be here. And the same is true for photography. The top photographers get paid the same as the top racing drivers. Now, I am very far from that paycheck, unfortunately, but if anyone fancies giving me $500,000 a day, I'm very happy to take it. But there is a gamut, there is a range within this. Most people who want to get into photography, they want to be at the higher end. That's where they see the career being. Maybe not the top Annie Leibovitz end, but at least at the level I work at. Most photographers are Uber drivers. Most photographers shoot weddings, shoot events. It's not a lucrative profession. Because many reasons, but because top photographers get paid a lot of money. And because of that, top photographers have to be exceptionally good. Top racing car drivers get paid a lot of money. And because of that, they have to be exceptionally good. Both of them have something in common. They have a few things in common, actually. First of all, natural ability. Some people are naturally smarter than others. For racing drivers, that might be depth perception, it might be reaction times, it could be making decisions under pressure. For photographers, it's attention to detail, it could be understanding narrative, like there's a whole load of stuff over there as well. They both have these skills. Not all of us have them. I am never going to be an Annie Leibovitz of this world. I understand where my top level is, and I'm not far from it right now. But a lot of people would never get to my level. And a lot of people can't even be allowed behind the wheel of a car. Okay, so let's put all of that into context. And there's a certain entitlement, though, in photography. There's a certain entitlement that photographers have that they deserve it. They've bought the kit. They should have it. But just because you bought a racing car doesn't mean you can drive it fast. And yes, you can practice to get to a certain level, but then there's still natural ability. There's certain genetics that just make some people better at sport than others. I can do the same training session as Michael Phelps. I can do them for years on end. I can train side by side with him, and I will never be as good as him. And I know this, I used to be a cyclist. I did the same training. We had the same coach as my friend. My friend was considerably better than me, regardless of the fact that he didn't do any, there's nothing he did that I didn't do. But genetics just meant he could buffer lactate better. Genetics meant his adaptation was better. And that's just a cruel, hard fact of life. Now, it's less so genetics in photography. A lot of it is understanding of the world. A lot of it is your sort of outlook on life. And unfortunately, a lot of it is your upbringing as well. If you don't have a background where you sort of saw art and read books, it's very difficult to get into. And I know that because I think I sat on the precipice of just not having that input. So there's that to it. But more important than all of this is, there's more photographers than there are good jobs. Because photography is fun, the kit is cool, the gadget's great. Look at this. This is going to be here a lot in these videos because it's next to my foot at the moment. Look at this cool thing. £200, I've got a pro camera. Like, that's just... I mean, that sounds beautiful, isn't it? Yeah. But, like, I can buy the kit. It's affordable. For like £1,000, I can have a pro setup, light and all. But there's not enough jobs. And for some reason, us photographers think that's some sort of hardship. Imagine how many people want to be racing car drivers. There's what, 20 cars in Formula One? There's even fewer, but nobody sits there going, well, it's not fair, they should let 5,000 people on the grid. That's not how it works. But for some reason, we just have this entitlement. Like, I've bought the kit, I've learnt the tech, why don't I get the money? And I know about this because I've had it. And this is not me preaching, you know, like, I've been there. I've seen that side of the scale. I was one of those people going, it's not fair. I've bought the cameras, I've learnt a 3-point lighting setup, give me the money. Give me the job. What is it? Because these people know people, they've got connections, and sure, that's a 0.1% of it, but it's not. It's just, it's a cool job, it's high paying, and there's not as many jobs as there are people wanting it. And yes, AI is getting better. Equipment's getting better. It's easier to get in. So if anything, there's a ballooning at the bottom end. But at the top end, the quality of work just gets higher and higher. As more things come in to help photographers be better at the beginning, it means that those at the top have to get better and better and better. What a top pro could produce in 1990 would get you a job shooting Amazon, like wide pack shots today. The top end of photography has just increased so much. The quality of work, the creative concept, the execution has got so much higher that what was great 20 years ago is irrelevant today. And this is not to say don't bother. Don't try. Do try. All good jobs are competitive. If you want to be the CEO at a company, how many of those positions are there? If you want, whatever you want to be, there's not that many positions in it. But I think the difference here is, if you want to be a photographer, you're actively seeking a career path. And I think a lot of people who go to work, they're not. They go to work to make money. And that's where this real turmoil inside of us comes. I would love to be the next Annie Leibovitz of the food world. I would love to be that big name, but I'm not going to be. I don't have that extra 0.1% that the top people have. And it makes that extra 0.1% makes a 99% difference in your career. I don't have it. And I'm okay with that. I work in my field. I'm very happy with what I've achieved, and I will keep working at it. And I'll keep striving to get there. I'm not going to give in, because maybe I do have it. Maybe it is bottled deep down somewhere, and I just need to go on one of those weird tours and lick a toad and wake up in a jungle. I don't know. Maybe it's in there somewhere, but I'm not going to stop. But I'm also not going to be bitter about it. I'm going to enjoy the career I have. I'm going to be happy with what I've achieved. So what do we do with this information? Do we just sack it off? I don't think so. Because remember, anybody who wants that easy win will leave anyway. And this has been, again, I always relate back to sports, is where my background is. When I was a cyclist, I was not as good as the best people. I raced, for those who are into cycle, I'm the same age as Geraint Thomas and Mark Cavendish. And I remember the best result I ever got was 7th in a race that Geraint Thomas won. Like Dan Martin was there, Stephen Croyswick, lots of big people. And I didn't have what it took. But people who were slightly below me stayed in the sport and made careers of it, because everyone else fell away. They dropped out. And the same is true in photography. If you just stick at it, eventually, as you get better, there's fewer and fewer people there. Millions of people at the beginning, 10 people at the top. And it's just sticking at it and working your way through. Don't get bought into the resentment. Don't feel that the career is over, that it's too late to start. It isn't. It's a great time to be a commercial photographer. Ignore what the haters say online. That is not my experience of the profession, and that's coming from someone who's actually in the profession. These people are telling you it's over, like it died in the 90s. They're not photographers. They're not professional photographers. They're not in the industry. They're just bitter people. Enjoy the career. Enjoy the pursuit, because the pursuit is the best part of it. And again, harping back to the sports days, saving up to buy my first bike, the pursuit of buying that was so enjoyable. few years later, I used to get given 2 bikes a year, like a training bike and a racing bike. I had no love for those bikes. They're just bikes I got given. I've still got that first bike. I've still got it because I worked so hard to get it. And that pursuit is the enjoyment in life. I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.